Hello everybody, welcome to Also Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already and drop a like on this video. I'm trying to hit 100k on this channel by the end of the year, so it'd be much appreciated. Also, real quick, I'm cutting this in because I forgot to mention this. I just put out a video over on my film channel about Bo Burnham's new comedy special to put on Netflix called Inside. The video is talking about how him performing without a crowd is interesting and unique and really fits his style, as well as just some overall thoughts on that special. So that's going to be in the pinned comment, card above, link in the description, all that stuff. So it'd be much appreciated if you check that out, because I love doing the film slash, I guess, special analysis stuff. So if it could be supported, that'd be much appreciated. Also, real quick, I feel like shit right now, so if I kind of stumble on my words a little bit, that would be why. I don't know why, I just got a weird wave of nausea. But today's video is not a post-game recap, or at least this one isn't. I am talking about both Zion Williamson and Luka Doncic, specifically what's going on with them in regards to them wanting to leave their team potentially, which the title of this video is probably going to be something like "This is ridiculous" or something in that category, because Zion Williamson is in his second year. Luka Doncic is in his third year, and we're talking about them leaving these teams already. So, the report. I knew about the Luka one ahead of time because I knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy. So I kind of already knew that was coming out, although this one seems like, is it more, I guess it's less of a big deal than the Zion one, because at least, you know, the Mavericks have shown some confidence. If you do not know, they just fired Don Nelson, who is the general manager or president of basketball operations, same difference, whichever one it was. And Rick Carlisle left. I don't know if it was it seemed like it was like not even really a mutual thing. Like Rick Carlisle was just like, yeah, I'm done with this team. By the way, we'd love to see him be the Bucks' new head coach once Budenholzer gets canned, as he should, assuming that they don't win the game today or don't win Game 7. But the thing is, the Zion thing was family members don't really love that he's in New Orleans, and they're not satisfied with some of the moves that they've made. I can think off the top of my head immediately trading Drew Holiday, as well as trading for Steven Adams and having Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams in your starting lineup in a way that really just hinders Zion's ability. And that speaks a lot to the talent of Zion, that he was still able to be as good as he was despite those hindrances. But yeah, there is reason to be not happy about those moves, especially I think the perspective from Zion's family and maybe from Zion a bit himself is that even though, yeah, you got a treasure trove of assets for Drew Holiday that will ultimately in the long term result in something, they might not have the mindset on focusing on that. Like Drew Holiday, if he was on the Pelicans right now, would definitely be contributing something to that team that would make them a better team. I will say, to some extent, it's not as though Zion does not have any blame for the lack of success from the Pelicans the past 2 years. He's been injured a lot, and he's been poorly conditioned, and he's been a terrible defensive player when he came into the league expected to be a really good defensive player. However, that's something that's perfectly acceptable. And so is the Pelicans not being great early on. That's also acceptable. It's a process that takes time. That's my issue with both of these reports, is that it's just completely negligent to just the concept of time and how it takes time for teams to develop. Now, I will say, from most people's perspective, and I feel like most reasonable people will look at this and say, okay, this doesn't mean anything right now, but it's just like, if there's smoke, there could be fire type of thing, where there might be a little bit of smoke here and maybe we get a fire down the line, but right now it's definitely not a fire. But it could also just be both of these guys saying, hey, I'm putting pressure on you right now. Go get me a good roster. Go get me what I need to succeed. And I definitely think that it's fair to do that from any age, especially when you're, well, really pretty much strictly when you're the level of talent that Luka and Zion are. So that's fair. And like putting pressure on the team immediately so they don't fuck around, especially when both of them are generational talents and they know it and they carry themselves like it, that is perfectly fine. Again, I keep swallowing, so sorry about that. I just feel weird right now. So there's that angle on it, that yeah, on a positive spin, these guys are really just putting pressure on their front offices. The Pelicans just released Jeff Van Gundy. Or not Jeff Van Gundy, Stan Van Gundy. Jeff is his annoying brother. Stan is the not great coach. So it's good that he's gone. That never made any sense to me, that hiring. He is more old school, and it really does not fit what the Pelicans need. So, like, he was making Lonzo a spot shooter. He was not a good coach, and I did not like that fit the moment that was announced to be their head coach. And then add on to it that they made the offseason acquisition of Steven Adams, which was just a guy Steven Adams is good, but he gets in Zion's way, and that's a problem. And then Eric Bledsoe is terrible, so there's that. But regardless, any little thing that I can nitpick, like on the Luka side of things, the Kristaps Porzingis contract, how terrible he was in round 1 versus the Clippers. The fact that there's no real shot creator, at least a consistent one on this team outside of Luka Doncic. All of these are problems, and problems that absolutely need to be addressed, and it's good that they would be addressed sooner rather than later. You don't want a situation like Anthony Davis on the Pelicans where the team is scrambling to make moves as the player is pretty much winding down to leaving because you didn't do anything for multiple years. Ironically, once again with the Pelicans. So there's definitely a good spin that, hey, it's good to put that pressure on them. But at the same time, like, people who are going like, okay, Zion to the Knicks now, like, no, stop, please. First of all, the Pelicans have Zion on contract for the next 2 years. Then they have him as a restricted free agent, which means at the very, very least, he takes a 1-year deal. I believe it would have to be what's the word? Mid-level exception? I think it's mid-level exception, right? No, wait. What's the one for? There's like, I can't remember the fucking name of it. This is gonna piss me off. Mid-level exception isn't that, I believe, but it's like a similar concept. You guys know what I'm talking about. But basically, rookies or guys coming off of the rookie contract can sign a 1-year deal, and when they do that, they become an unrestricted free agent the season after. Qualifying offer. That's what it's called. So they can accept the qualifying offer. Zion could do that. Luka could do that, play out that year, and then boom, they're an unrestricted free agent after their 5th season. So that's a possibility, and that's the reason why you definitely don't just treat this like it's nothing. But I'm more annoyed with the fan perspective on it, and where it's just like, oh, that means these guys are gone now, and we're already speculating on what Luka Doncic's next team is. We're already speculating on what Zion's next team is. And while I am unfortunately not coming from the perspective of someone who has a generational talent on their team, I could say that if I had a guy as good as Luka or as good as Zion on my team and they're coming off their 2nd and 3rd year, and I heard some shit like this, I would be very annoyed. Not at the players, because that's fair game, and I understand why they're doing what they're doing. It puts pressure on the front office to build you a better roster. More power to you. However, the fans who take something like that and then immediately go, okay, we're going to get Zion on the Knicks, I would be pissed. Not just because it's ignoring the context of the situation, but also because, like, fuck off. No, it's my fucking player. My team's player. That especially when they're just so young. Like, after a certain extent, especially when you have a guy who's older, you just kind of come to accept the possibility that they can leave the team. And I'm all about the player empowerment and player movement and all of that. But especially if I have a young guy, I feel like I should be able to be, as a fan and as an organization, able to catch your breath for like 5 seconds. I understand you don't want that to get to the point of just total complacency like it has ironically on the Pelicans in the past. However, it also should not be a rush and constant sense of urgency. Like, give teams the time, the proper time, to build around their star properly and have a little bit of patience for that happening. Now, again, it's probably just smoke and hopefully not fire, but it's something. And the discourse around it is a little frustrating. I understand why they're doing it, but it's frustrating. And as much as I love player movement, if we're starting to talk about 2nd-year players leaving their teams, it's getting a little bit too far. And I'm not the type to say something like that. Usually anything that's more player empowerment, I'm all the way in on that, because that's better than the fucking greedy billionaire owners just getting to do whatever the fuck they want and players not having the ability to control their own destiny. But at the same time, for your first couple of years in the league, maybe you shouldn't have that much ability to control your destiny because at a certain point, everything just becomes the Wild West, and teams can never really build up any kind of continuity unless there's just some guy who's a dime a dozen who's just fiercely loyal, like a Damian Lillard or Bradley Beal type of guy. And those guys are not the generational talents that Luka and Zion are, even if they're maybe better right now, although I think Luka's better than Dame for sure. But that's a whole nother conversation. But just regardless, allow teams to build their continuity, build up that player base, and not just have every single year feels like it's all or nothing on keeping a player, because that shit would just get insanely stressful, and I don't think that would be good for the NBA. And I'm not typically one to stand up in the face of something like this, but it's a little frustrating, more so the discourse than anything else. I'm rambling. That's what these videos are. This is why the main channel videos are scripted, because I don't want them to be like this. But yeah, that is the end of this video. Subscribe. I want 100K by the end of the year, so if you could help me do that, it'd be much appreciated. Oh, fuck. I forgot to promote something. I'm going to edit that in at the start. So yeah, I'm going to edit that in at the start. Yeah, goodbye.